Arrow Season 4, Episode 3, Restoration. A pretty cool episode that kind of had a couple of surprises. The main surprise for me is that they actually brought Sarah back at the end of this episode. I thought for sure they'd spend another full-on episode talking about the pros and cons of bringing her back to life. But that was a nice little surprise. She comes back. Same reaction as Thea had. It just, of course, she was totally dead, so it's taking longer and things are going to be a little bit different. But we got to see Nada Parbat. We got to see Merlin as Ra's al Ghul, or Ra's al Ghul, however you want to pronounce it. We got to see Nyssa back, and that was really fun. We got to see these characters. Their introduction this episode was them fighting each other because, of course, Nyssa wants to kill Merlin, but she can't exactly do it. She's not as powerful as he is, or not as skilled. So, they're sparring, and he's like, I love that we spar, and she's just trying to flat out kill the guy, and she gets a nice little cut on him, but, nothing really happens with that, because obviously he just heals. But she has some skills there, not good enough to take him out, though. But we got to see them come back in this episode. Those were pretty much all the surprises were in the Nada Parbat stuff. Like, them bringing back Sarah kind of surprised me. Like I said, I thought they saved that for, like, the end of the next episode, or maybe even the one after that. They'd continue sort of contemplating how do we get this to work and stuff like that. The other big shock was the stuff with Thea. We actually got a full-on answer about her lust, her bloodlust, and it's basically that she's kind of absorbed the souls, in a sense, of every person that's ever been in the pit. And so now she has, like, this bloodlust, and if she kills people, then it'll subside for a couple of weeks. And Malcolm sends a couple of guys in. She, of course, takes them out, and it's a really cool scene. Kills two guys. The second guy, I was like, holy crap, that was like some torture type murder she did. Because she does like a slow slice across his neck and kills him. And I was like, holy crap, she was not messing around with that. And she takes the guy down. So we get that little bit of info. I thought for sure when they talked about like a person, on the hillside or whatever that might be able to help them out, I thought for sure that would be Constantine. But, that's not the case here. And it turns out that there is no cure. It's just going to be something they have to figure out. They might do that with Constantine and however they end up playing that. But I thought that was a nice little surprise. Like, that's an actual answer. It's not just like, oh, the pit just makes you crazy. It's like, this is exactly why. And there's no answer to it. It's just kill people and it subsides for a couple of weeks. So, a murder a day keeps the rage away. And that's pretty much all there is to it. So, I definitely enjoyed that. I liked the conversation between Nyssa and Laurel because Nyssa mentions, like, I cared so much for your sister that's why I didn't bring her back, because I knew what would happen if she was put in the pit. And they have this very interesting conversation where she's just very upset because even though this is a woman that she loved, she doesn't want her to become something that she's not. She's going to be like a crazy freak of nature almost. And not even in the normal sense of the Lazarus Pit, like an even worse version of that. So, like, actually insane. So that was actually, that wasn't surprising. But that was just a nice portion of this episode. And it was minor. It was just here and there. But they had some really good moments. And when it is officially happening, I love that. And then that leads to a big surprise where somehow she had this thing that her father had where it destroys the Lazarus Pit. And that is a huge deal. I don't know if it's 100% done forever or how they're going to play around with that. But that's a really big deal. I mean, basically, it just looked like there was some steam on top, like some fog over it. So it didn't exactly look like it was destroyed, but it could be the regenerative properties of the Lazarus Pit are now gone. So it'll just basically be regular water. But that was a really huge thing. That is like the thing of the League of Assassins. Granted, they kill a ton of people, so that's a big part of them too. But the Lazarus Pit is kind of what makes the League of Assassins what it is, because that's why we have Ra's al Ghul, because he lives from way back then to right now, because he has this Lazarus Pit, and it just keeps him going. And he can take on whoever the heck he wants to take on. So that was very surprising to see. And well, obviously, with it being the Lazarus Pit, they're going to definitely touch on that. And I'm looking forward to it because it should be interesting to see how that plays out. He didn't have Nyssa killed because, of course, it's Nyssa. I think they aren't going to kill off one of their main characters, or at least main recurring characters. So Malcolm's mad, of course, and there's probably going to end up being some sort of weird retroactive chemical that they can use to restore the properties or something like that. But still a big moment for the episode. Definitely loved it. And then we have sort of the, I guess as Felicity calls it, like the OG side of the storyline. And I loved when she said that. But we get our original Team Arrow, and we had a lot of cool moments from this. They had a couple of pretty awesome scenes with our original three members. And it starts off, of course, Oliver and Diggle are going after one of the ghosts. They capture him, and then they pluck one of his teeth out. We find out some really weird information where it has like half the DNA it should have in a tooth, which was really weird. Like, even as a fake tooth, I guess it should have way more, especially since it's actually implanted. So that was pretty interesting to hear. They failed to capture this guy, which was really weird to me, because Diggle and Oliver were standing right next to each other when they're like, oh, Felicity, can you tell us where he is? And she traps this guy. And so Diggle shows up, he gets hit with, I don't know what happened. I guess the guy had like some sort of electrical thing on his vest, and so Diggle gets knocked back. And then Oliver comes jumping. As soon as he came, I was like, where was he at? They were next to each other. And it's not like as cool as Diggle is, if it was a race, I would assume Oliver's going to win based on all of his insane training. But for whatever reason, he was like 3 minutes late to the scene, and they were literally at the exact same point next to each other. And I was just like, where the heck did he come from? He didn't have the motorcycle again, so it wasn't like he, rode up on the motorcycle. He just came off of these logs and he jumped down. So he didn't go retrieve it to drive and chase the guy. He was just not there for some reason. And that kind of bugged me. I was like, that made no sense to me, because they were right next to each other. It's like, oh, let's split up after Felicity told us where the guy was. Like, that wouldn't happen, because that would be even dumber. But he was just not there. So that was really weird to me that happened. And that, of course, leads to the guy escaping and going back to Damien, which ultimately gets him killed by our main villain for this episode, who is a metahuman. And I was wondering if he was or not through the previews. I was like, I'm not 100% sure if he has these, or if those are tattoos, or if he has like actual playing cards, like crazy metal playing cards on his body. But he's a metahuman. He was getting a tattoo at the time of the explosion, so all of his tattoos he can bring to life. At least the cards. I would have loved to have seen him have more stuff, because it actually reminded me of a character from an old anime I've seen called Speedgrapher, and they went really crazy with that character. He had like a giant spider tattoo, and he made like a real life spider come out his back, and it would walk for him, and that way he could do whatever he wanted. And he had like a knife tattoo and stuff that he could use. So I would have loved to have seen more than just crazy metal bioorganic playing cards, but they were pretty cool. They definitely made them really sweet, because it was just unlimited. Like, basically you just swipe his wrist over and over again, and here comes some crazy pseudo metal organic playing cards. And they even mention when Felicity's trying to get a full workup on him, they even mention that he could basically track where the cards are, because he can kind of sense where this part of his body basically disappeared to. And I was like, that's actually really awesome. So I love that scene. The whole chase scene was actually pretty cool. I was very surprised to find out that the current base is inside of the tower. I didn't know that. I don't know if you guys knew that. I thought for sure that they were in that random place that Oliver mentioned, and I guess that's where it's always been. I thought that was just some random other warehouse facility or something, and it turns out it's actually in the basement of the former Queen Consolidated building. So that really surprised me when they did that. I was like, okay, I didn't know that was actually in the tower. Maybe I just didn't remember that, but I'm pretty sure they never mentioned ever that was actually in the tower. So that was a surprise to me. Also surprising that for whatever reason they got on this super secret elevator. Felicity and the guy whose name I totally can't remember, but I know his superhero name. But they get on this elevator, and they get to this secret level that I guess it's not just the basement, because that's dumb, but they get to this secret level on an elevator, and yet he got there like less than a minute after them on this super tall tower of a building. He got there like under a minute, and they mentioned it wasn't in the same scene, but it was like a scene later. I think Oliver mentions that it's in the basement, or maybe it was the same scene. I think it was probably the end of the episode when Felicity was talking to the guy, and it's like, I never would have thought there would be like a secret base in the basement or something. So them being on this elevator and getting down there, and then he gets down there like less than a minute later, made no sense to me. Like, even if they, jump through time like they do in TV shows, it would take longer than like the little time they had where she's like, here's a gun, and then they basically had to duck after like 30 seconds. He wouldn't have made it down that fast. It made no sense. He obviously would have no clue which way they were going. He could probably assume down because the top of the building is basically just blown up. But it just made no sense. Like, how did he get there so fast and just find his way right in? Like, if that's the case, that is not a secret location. Because he just walked in a random area. It wasn't the same elevator because I'm pretty sure she did something. I thought she did something to make, like, the elevator appear. But, I don't know, I guess I could have missed that scene, but it's just like, that just seemed really weird to me. It was a cool scene, though, because Felicity has a machine gun, even though she did, like, the worst firing I've ever seen, where she literally, like, people always close their eyes in TV shows, but she turned the other way and was just like this. And I was like, that is so dangerous, but she's just, spraying and praying, and she actually clips the guy, so not too bad, got him to take off. But it was a cool scene to see that, but that was something else that caught my attention. Like, how the heck did he just get in there? Like, it was literally nothing. Like, if he could do it, I would think anyone could just walk there. Like, any maintenance person, like, oh, we gotta fix this. Oh, it leads right here. And then, boom, secret arrow base. And, there's nothing to it. So, I don't know. That was kind of weird to me. Still enjoyed the scene. The stuff that they had with Felicity's phone, that's definitely Ray. Like, he's so tiny, he's in her phone. Like, 100% that has to be the case. He's inside of her phone, and they're, like, and now it makes sense, because I was trying to figure out, like, where could he possibly be? Because, obviously, he didn't die. I still don't know how he could have survived the explosion from being tiny, but somehow he survived, and that's the only answer. So he's in her phone, and I guess he can recognize, I mean, I guess it's not like things change colors when you get super tiny, but he recognizes how things are, and I guess he was still in the tower all that time until she finally came back, and he's like, oh, it's Felicity, thank God, someone I can contact, where it makes sense and it's not really crazy and they just like toss the phone away. It's Felicity, she'll get it. He has her name kind of come up at the end of the episode, so he's finally figured some stuff out. So Ray Palmer is in Felicity's phone, and he's just there. I don't know how he's surviving in a phone, because that thing is shaking like all over the place based on me having my phone in my pocket. So he's holding on to something and surviving in that suit. Don't know how he's eating food or anything like that, because of course he's so freaking tiny. How does he make that work? But I don't know. However we get this answer, I'm looking forward to that. And I think they're going to kind of save it for a little while, but they kind of showed off two characters that are going to be in Legends of Tomorrow. So I was really excited by that, because they brought Sarah back in this one, and we got the stuff with Ray Palmer. Like, this is where Ray Palmer officially is, because it was kind of just a mystery. Like, he's tiny somewhere, and now it's like, yes, he's in her phone, or maybe he's doing something somewhere else, because, like I said, it kind of wouldn't make sense that he's just in her phone, but he's also super tiny, and he easily could be. So either way, they kind of show off two characters that are going to be in Legends of Tomorrow. And it was kind of surprising that they did that for both people. It's like, boom, Sarah's back, and here is exactly what's happening with Ray Palmer. So, looking forward to them expanding on that and leading into Legends of Tomorrow. The action in this episode was definitely pretty cool. I think, oddly enough, I think the villain was deadlier than most villains we've seen because of his ability, and that's pretty much all he did. It was specifically just throw these blade cards into people. So we saw a lot of people get cut. Like, Oliver had a card like sticking out of his arm in the one scene. Oliver got like hit at the end of the episode, but of course he was protected by the Kevlar. We had the woman that Diggle was actually going after, totally killed. Like, the card went straight into her throat and she died. And Damien pulled that off with, like, his magic, or, well, it's magic, his magic powers. And so he kills her off, which is actually kind of a cool scene. I kind of liked how that was, and just the way he did it. And then he threw the card back at the guy, but he stops it right before he kills him. I kind of liked that scene, and that was another surprise. I thought for sure this woman was going to be captured, or they'd get some answers. It's like, alright, Diggle has this info. Great, like, he's going to get some information out of her. Something, minor, most likely, just the next little clue. And then it's like, no, this is the woman he's after, and she just got killed. So they're kind of back to square one. So that really surprised me. the first scene where it was Oliver and Diggle split up on their own separate missions, where they were both just kind of getting beat up. Um, the woman was so calm when Diggle beat up that first guy, and he's just like unloading bullets in their direction, and she was kind of just looking at him like, I'm gonna get in the car. And, like, she didn't look like she was worried at all, and I just thought that was so funny. But she gets killed off, which is very surprising to me. Hive is getting a little bit more involved because of the whole vigilante stuff happening, so it's like we need things to kind of take place, so they send in a metahuman. So we're going to see more involvement from Hive. We might get to eventually see some of these members come into play, so I'm looking forward to that. The flashbacks in this episode, I think, officially are leading into something pretty cool, because we get not only the name of the drug, which is the craziest thing I've ever heard, is part cocaine, part heroin. That's just insane. But Oliver officially takes this woman away, and so he's trying to help her survive. And we're going to get to see how that plays out, because it's just the two of them at this point, so I don't know how he's going to be moving people out little by little. And obviously he's going to have to explain, like, oh yeah, this guy, she ran off or something and we chased her, and he, stepped on a landmine. It's probably going to be his excuse, but he's already on thin ice because he's just this random guy. So I expect a little bit of turbulence in the next episode, like, oh, this person just died while you were taking this woman to disappear, which I don't know why the guy agreed to that. Like, I know it was like, how would he feel about you exterminating his workforce, but if you make her disappear, that's literally the same thing. It's like she's still gone and nothing's happening with her. She's not helping in the fields or anything. So I was like, I don't know why he even bothered to agree with that. It's like, if she's gone, she's still gone. Like, that workforce is still gone. It's basically exterminated if she's not working. But either way, he agreed, and so now Oliver, things are set in motion. But I'm looking forward to this next episode. Very surprised once again, just in the preview, that Sarah's basically revealed to her dad. Like, Laurel's like, no more secrets. She's alive. Boom. So I'm actually really looking forward to the next episode. And he's going to Damien Dark to help her. So who knows what madness is going to come of that. But I'm really looking forward to it. I enjoyed this episode. But of course, I want to know what you guys thought about it. So please comment below. Let me know your favorite parts, your least favorite parts. And I want to know what was the most surprising thing for you guys this episode. Because I was just shocked constantly throughout. Like, there were definitely a couple that were big surprises, and they probably weren't meant to be. I don't think anything this episode was really meant to be a surprise, but it came as a surprise to me based on just how I thought they were going to play things. Like, the stuff with Sarah coming back in this episode surprised me. The Ray Palmer finally being sort of revealed as to his location, definitely a surprise, because it was like nothing. They don't even really talk about Ray, honestly. Like, they, even in this episode, we got like the full sign of, like, in memory of Ray Palmer and stuff, but no one has even talked about him. Like, literally his name is brought up when it ends in technologies. That is it. No one says anything about, like, Ray, it's sad that Ray died or this or that. It's like he's just gone. Like, it's almost like they just forgot or something. But surprise, like, a couple of surprises for me. So I want to know what surprised you guys most. So please comment below, let me know, and thanks for watching.